Research in neuroscience suggests that when couples share deep emotional and spiritual connection, their brains actually begin to synchronize.
And he says it's more effective than therapy. Now, we're not telling you not to go get therapy, but that's a pretty bold statement from a Harvard professor.
Can you fall out of love with your spouse if you're daily gazing into their eyes? Slow, gentle touch activates special sensory neurons that go directly to a part of the brain that controls emotional well-being. Welcome to Marriage IQ, the podcast helping you become an intelligent spouse.
I'm Heidi Hastings.
And I'm Scott Hastings.
Hello, everybody, and Dr. Heidi and Dr. Scott Hastings here from Marriage IQ.
Hello.
So, this is part 2 in a 2-part series on happiness in marriage. And so today we're going to talk about the most powerful things that we can do to improve our marriages that take less than 60 seconds.
Say what?
And you're probably not doing them nearly enough. Now, it's not therapy. It's just really simple things. Praying together, eye contact, and touch. So in our last episode, we started breaking down ideas inspired by Dr. Arthur Brooks, the happiness expert, and his work on building a happier and stronger life and happier and stronger relationships. We focused on having more fun together. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, we've got a link below. Go ahead and go back to that and watch that first and catch up with us. So today we're diving into the next ways to build a happier, more connected marriage. They're not optional, but are, to Scott's glee, perhaps biological.
Yes.
Anything medical, anything biological kind of gets him excited. These are simple but powerful. And if you've been feeling disconnected, or if you've been feeling way too busy, or even just a little bit off with each other, this might be exactly the place to start.
All right, my dear, we're picking up where we left off. Number 2, Arthur Brooks really doubles down on this, Heidi, when talking about increasing spiritual intimacy by praying together every day as a key element to happiness. He also offers some other suggestions, including reading to each other or meditating with each other.
Yeah, some people aren't comfortable with prayer, so I love that he included those too.
We had a slumber party a few weeks ago down in the TV room, and Heidi said, let's read some poetry together. She whipped out this book, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran.
It was one of my dad and mom's favorites.
Yeah, and started reading. And then I started reading some during this slumber party. You know, some other things that we've done. This is a routine we've done for a long time, but we love Boston. We love going to Concord, sitting by the Concord River in complete silence, just meditating for an hour at a time. These are just some examples of radical departures of what we used to do. And that's for you too. What are some radical departures to help keep things alive? Research in neuroscience suggests that when couples share deep emotional and spiritual connection that comes from things like praying together or meditating or sharing in these quiet moments together, their brains actually begin to synchronize. And in those moments of closeness, they become more aligned in how they process their emotions and how they read each other's moods. It's more intuitive. When couples feel safe and deeply connected, they also begin to communicate in a more intuitive, nonverbal way, almost like they can feel each other. Mm-hmm. A right brain to right brain connection.
Yeah, I know Dr. Brooks talks a lot about the neuroscience, about how prayer connects the right side of the brain, and that does create connection with each other.
But yeah, this area of the brain that involves empathy, that emotional attunement, and understanding of that other person. So it's what's going on underneath the surface. In simpler terms, when you feel deeply connected, you're not just on the same page, you're starting to operate on the same wavelength.
That's kind of cool.
It is.
So we do pray together, and we highly recommend it. So I want to touch for a moment on some of the studies that indicate the power that prayer can have on a marriage. So couples who pray, especially for each other, research shows are often more forgiving. They have deeper trust for each other and a stronger sense of unity together. There's quite a bit of research on this. And it's also linked, Scott, to lower levels of infidelity, which isn't super surprising, but also higher relationship satisfaction and commitment. But it actually even goes deeper than that too. Research shows prayer seems to shift how we see our spouse. It can increase awareness of how my actions affect you. It can soften negative emotions when we're holding hands together at night and coming before our maker. And it helps us step back from anger and frustration. In that way, it becomes, I think, almost a form of emotional regulation, that prayer interrupts some of those negative feelings when we participate in this ritual. So it's a way to calm down and reset and reconnect with each other if things have escalated a little bit. For many couples, prayer also supports healthier conflict resolution and communication and intimacy.
So perhaps right now you're telling yourself all the reasons why you can't pray or meditate with your spouse. And I'm guessing some of those might be, it feels awkward.
I have heard that a lot.
I'm willing, but my spouse isn't spiritual. Or praying together just feels too vulnerable.
You like that word vulnerable, don't you?
I do. We are asking you just to start simple, to keep it doable.
Yeah, don't make a big, huge thing out of it, but just maybe try a 1-minute gratitude exchange if you're not comfortable with prayer, or hold hands and say just a very short prayer that's a few seconds, or read a single paragraph or a page of something meaningful out loud to each other.
Yeah. Or just sitting together in silence, like we like to do at the side of the Concord River.
Yeah, but people don't have to do it for an hour. Even if they do it for a few minutes, it has some positive impact leading to happiness.
So we're on number 3.
Number 3 of Arthur Brooks' best marriage advice.
Yes, we can do that right now, right? Especially when we're talking to each other. I'm going to go a little personal here. There's a very strikingly high chance that I have Asperger's.
If you don't know what that is, that's high functioning autism.
I've never been diagnosed with it, but everything I read on it, and it just all clicks. And so it's a little bit hard for me to make eye contact. It's strange. We've been married almost 30 years, and I realized recently how important it is by just making regular eye contact with you when I'm speaking to you, especially when I'm listening to you, how much you walk away from that conversation feeling understood and heard, and how close or more connected you feel with me. And I'm thinking, why? I mean, we knew about eye contact before. We've taught about mindful gaze and things like that, but not on just regular day-to-day conversations.
Yeah, I've noticed, especially when you're feeling stressed and we're talking, maybe we're at dinner or something, you're looking everywhere around and not looking at me in the eye.
Yes. And I just realized recently that she wasn't getting much out of this conversation. We were doing the mechanics of it. We were talking it through.
I felt like you weren't with me.
We were talking, but I wasn't looking directly in your eyes. And it's really hard for me to do. And I started doing it because I just started thinking, how am I not connecting with my wife? I had to sit with myself. And that was one thing I came up with, is that I need to, despite my very neurodivergent ways on date night and at other conversations, that needs to take a priority.
Dr. Brooks just really pounds this one. And he says that it's even more important for husbands to look at their wives while their wives are talking, because women are more sensitive to feeling disconnection if their husband is not looking at them.
Yes, there is a biological basis for this that we've discussed in other episodes. This is another way that I have radically departed from what I used to do. A scintillating marriage requires us to be vigilant and adventurous and novel. We have to look for new ground to break, new ideas, fresh new things. And for me, it was breaking a 30-year habit of not looking at you when I talk to you.
It also reminds me of the episode we did on flubbing, when a lot of people will be looking at their phones even though they're talking to their spouse.
Yes.
And that sends the same message. That's episode 99.
Shocking truth about couples and phones.
Couples and phones. And we'll link that below as well.
Yeah. So honey, eye gaze. Did you know that when you engage in eye gaze, you release oxytocin from your brain.
Ooh, that sounds familiar. I think we talked about that in
Episode 7.
Okay.
Why men want sex and women need love. Guess what, folks? It's oxytocin.
Which that's an audio only episode. So if you go back and listen to that on YouTube and you don't find any video, that's why. That was before we were doing video.
So yeah, we did a deep dive on oxytocin on that episode. The very strange hormone indeed. I think in that episode, we posed the idea that oxytocin may be the fix to all of society's problems.
Because we'll feel more connected to each other.
Just inject all the men, line them up, inject all the men with oxytocin, or at least add it to the water along with the fluoride, and poof, everything is fixed in society.
So for all of those people who haven't listened to that episode and don't know about oxytocin, do you want to give them a little primer here?
It's a connection hormone. Women have about 4 to 5 times more oxytocin just generally circulating through their system than men do. At delivering a baby, women will produce a lot more oxytocin.
And in breastfeeding.
And that makes a lot of sense because it helps that bonding between mother and child. Mm-hmm. But also it's released during orgasm. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense too, because now it connects the man and wife together in that lovely period called afterglow, mm-hmm. where you come together and you snuggle and everything is just really good. For about 5 to 10 minutes is the half-life of oxytocin. So we've established this eye contact really helps that oxytocin get going. It really helps us get on that same wavelength when we are playing together, when we're praying together, meditating together, we are on the same wavelength.
Is oxytocin produced through playing together and prayer?
Probably. I can't say that for sure because I haven't looked it up. But I do know, like after sex, the orgasm, delivering babies, eye gaze, and as you'll find later, touch too. There's a study, very old. There's not a lot of studies on this, folks, but there's one in 1989. It was done on some college students. They took a bunch of college students, opposite sex. They put them together. Again, guy, girl, and they did some eye gazing exercises that lasted for 2 minutes and found that these people who really didn't even know each other, after 2 minutes of gazing into each other's eyes, they increased passion, love, and liking of their partner.
That sounds pretty dangerous.
No.
Eye gazing, drinking. Let's see. Eye gazing might be a little safer, but that is interesting. Very interesting. So why do we stop looking in each other's eyes as much?
We just don't think about it, my love. You know, in her book, there's a book called Slow Sex by Diana Richardson. And this is also taught by Shalom Levitt, who we interviewed on this podcast previously. They talk about and teach about this mindful gaze, where you're taking this eye gaze to a whole nother level. You're deeply gazing into each other's eyes. And this is more of an intro or foreplay, if you will, into a deeper, more mindful sexual experience. Eye contact, again, as we said, it does release that oxytocin. It gets released from the pituitary gland, the little spurts when you have these episodes, including mindful sex. So let me ask, can you fall out of love with your spouse if you're daily gazing into their eyes? Is it still possible to not love you? Can someone please try this and get back to us? If you're on the brink of divorce or you're having a lot of problems, just do this experiment and email us for 5 minutes every day. Gaze into each other's eyes. You cannot look away. Do that for 30 days and then report back to us at hello@marriageiq.com.
So that's like you doing your own research here.
That's right. On our audience. You don't even have to say anything. Just look into each other's eyes for 5 minutes every day for 30 days.
What's your hypothesis?
My hypothesis is that they are going to be much less likely to divorce.
You think their right side of their brains will be more synced up?
It's very possible.
Yeah,
look, even if you do nothing else, you
that.
don't change anything else about your relationship. Just do this one thing. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. So number 4, always be touching.
He calls that ABT. It's fun.
ABT. Always be touching. So I want to go back to our first kiss.
Okay. Like that.
Quite scandalous, quite frankly.
The story that you've created out of it is quite scandalous.
Yes. We went on our first date and it was quite scandalous. But I do remember that that first touch, like of the lips, it sent you into
Fireworks.
In fact, I said, "What's wrong?" Because you were just like, I thought you were going to pass out. And I said, "Are you okay?"
Maybe I hadn't kissed anybody in a while.
I said, "Are you okay?" And your words were, "I am very okay." And yes, you described it as fireworks.
I think before the first kiss, what got it started though was we
had
touched
hand
hands.
touch. Yes.
We just touched hands like this. Ooh, look how big your hands are in comparison to mine. And it was very electric. I think it started with just very simple touch.
Yeah. And then escalated quite quickly. But that's quite an exciting moment, right? To have that kind of a touch.
When we talk every night on our walk about things that we need, we do our Thanos exercise, which we have an episode on that, 3 communication tools. We each take turns saying what we need. I think probably 80% of the time you say, I need to be touched more.
A lot of the time I do. Yeah. And I like to have fun and laugh. That's a big chunk too.
So I think we both really thrive on the oxytocin that's provided by touch, by physical touch.
I have learned that you love to have your feet rubbed.
Yes, I've noticed whenever I'm in a very stressful situation lately, you say, "Can I rub your feet?" So have you noticed that makes a difference in my
of course. When I have no idea what to say, and the risk of saying anything is greater than the risk of not saying anything, which is also a risk because I just grab your feet and start rubbing.
hard.
That's the only thing I know
really
that I know you love at any time. As we said before, touching does also release that oxytocin like eye gaze. But did you know touch also activates deeper, more primitive neurobiological pathways
Tell me more.
that eye gaze alone does not fully engage. So eye gaze creates attention and emotional attunement.
Okay.
Touch brings in physiologic regulation and the feeling of safety.
Oh, yes.
So think about it. Slow, gentle touch. What does it do? It activates special sensory neurons that go directly to a part of the brain that controls emotional well-being.
Wow. The double whammy with touch.
You're right. Oxytocin is released more robustly. So more of it's released than eye gaze alone.
With touch?
Yes.
So if we're gazing in each other's eyes and we're touching each other,
Yes.
that's the best possible scenario.
Yeah, you better get out of the way.
Okay.
Touch also affects our sympathetic nervous system. It decreases cortisol and epinephrine. Those are the hormones that create, especially epinephrine, that create the fast heart rate, the tremor, the nervousness, the stress.
Anxiety?
And that it, yes, plays into anxiety. And by that touch, it activates parts of the brain that help that lower that epinephrine, that cortisol level.
So we should be touching each other a lot more.
We should be, yes. All of us, every one of us.
So how did you feel last night when we're riding on the Lime scooter? We went to the art museum and I just put my arms around you. There were two of us on one scooter. We were pretty squished together there.
Yes, 2 on 1. I told you already. I mentioned that was my favorite part of our date night. Was the 10 minutes on that scooter with you just holding on to me for dear life.
Okay.
And me weaving through traffic on our little scooter.
Trying not to look. So if we're walking down the sidewalk and I just grab your hand or I just wrap my arm around your arm, what does that do to you?
It helps me feel masculine.
Okay. So
It
that
helps me
increases
feel
happiness in the relationship.
Yeah, it helps me feel that I'm fulfilling my masculine role as the husband.
And it probably helps me feel more safe.
Yeah.
Interesting. All because of touch.
We talked about back in episode 29, way back, called No Girls Allowed, that women receive skin-to-skin contact differently than men do. So if men receive a soft touch and women receive a soft touch, the same exact thing, women interpret that touch differently than men do.
Okay. Tell me, because I can't remember. That's been a long time ago.
Yeah, they've done studies on this. It creates a calming, soothing, and really a more meaningful effect. So yes, it is important to do it on both spouses, but we here at Marriage RQ are saying that from a neurobiological standpoint, women do tend to enjoy and appreciate light sensory skin-to-skin contact in general than men do because they have extra sensory areas in the skin and in the brain for that. So there's a lot to think of here, honey. We went through in 2 episodes. We went over the 4 ways that Dr. Arthur Brooks feels like to create more happiness in your marriage.
Very simple things. And he says it's more effective than therapy. Now, we're not telling you not to go get therapy, but that's a pretty bold statement from a Harvard professor.
So, folks, what can you do this week to pray together, to create more eye contact, to create more touch? Can you take our challenge? Get with your spouse and do 5 minutes a day, every day. And if you can't do it for 30 days, at least do it for this week and write back to us. hello@marriageiq.com. We want to hear from you.
Or put it in the comments below. And we hope that you'll still focus on having more fun.
Yeah.
And so your right lobes of your brain can sync up and you can be more in tune with each other and more in touch with with your relationship.
Yes, absolutely. So ask yourself, do I do some of these 4 maybe more naturally better than others? Like I might be better at eye gaze, which I'm not personally, but you might be. Look at them. Which ones do you struggle with? Which ones do you do best with? Get with your spouse and talk with them about which one of these 4 they struggle with. Which one of these 4 do they do well with? I do very well with fun because I love having fun.
And in my life so far, I've struggled with that. I'm more of a serious soul. But this year I'm letting it loose and I am trying new things and coming up with new ideas. Scott's almost a little uncomfortable sometimes. He's like, I don't know what to do. What do we do? What do we do different? I like Friday night movie night where we lay on the couch and watch a movie after dinner. If just one of the 2 of you can come up with those fun ideas.
But I'm willing to do it. And we did it. We had a great time last night. Yeah. And the more you can do that and just have that back and forth, the more that you can feel connected and scintillating in your relationship.
Yeah. So back to the person who wrote us the email asking, is happiness and connection even possible in marriage? Goes back
Last week,
to, we hope that Dr. Brooks, 4 really easy things that you can do to create more happiness in your marriage, will give you some ideas on how to be more connected with your spouse.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. We hope you've enjoyed it. Please reach out to us, leave a comment, join the conversation. Remember that the intelligent spouse knows that to change from a stinky to a scintillating marriage first requires a change in themselves. We will see you next time on another exciting episode of Marriage IQ.